afternoon, good evening, good metal. My name's Cooper and welcome to the Spoken Metal Show. This is episode 36 where we talk to Andrew O'Neill. But before I kind of get into that, obviously we have to talk about Metal to the Masses, the first heat of which for Merseyside will be Friday the 12th of April at 7 p.m. Guest headliners, All Consumed. That's kind of old school death thrash thing going on there. Superb. They're the guest headliners, but there'll be four bands kind of vying for that spot to move forward and then eventually play at Bloodstock. Anatomia, there you go, Anatomia, Soulless Nil and Soul Desire, and someone to be confirmed. So there's three bands kind of confirmed there, one coming up as well. And I took a look at some of these bands. Anatomia, let's keep saying that, that's going to become an ongoing thing. We'll talk to them about that at some point, I imagine. I went to listen to some of the material these bands are putting out, and they're very young. Most of them have been going only since like 2017, 2016. They're just starting their EPs. They're just kind of finding their voice. They're just kind of finding what they are as a metal act, which is a hugely interesting time to watch a band. It's hugely interesting kind of see what they come up with and what their take is, and see their journey as well. So that's Friday the 12th of April at 7 p.m. At EBGB's in Liverpool at 7 p.m. That's the first heat of Metal to the Masses. I will be the compere and guest host for the evening, if you will, to hopefully kind of make things move along nice and smoothly, maybe give you a laugh, talk a little bit about metal. If you see me at the show, as always, come and approach me and say hey and tell me what I'm doing wrong, tell me what I'm doing right, if I'm doing anything right. So that's the Metal to the Masses Heat 1, Friday the 12th of April at 7 p.m. at EBGB's. Guest headliners All Consumed, Anatomia, Soulless Nil, Soul Desire, and a band to be confirmed as well. And we kick off our road to Bloodstock, which is just a really cool thing to be involved of. And I thank the organisers of Metal to the Masses for asking me to do that. It's a fantastic honour. Right then, so let's get right into this. This was an interview with Andrew O'Neill. It was more of a chat, and I'll get into why it was in a second, but it was more of a chat. Andrew O'Neill, 15 years plus veteran of the stand-up, in a band Men That Will Be Blamed For Nothing, his steampunk band, wrote numerous things, including 2017's A History of Heavy Metal, numerous comedy awards, World Traveller, kind of hugely sort of interesting individual, but most of all he's a metalhead. He's a huge fan of metal, opens and does sets at Download and compares and that, and I found out he was playing or comparing events quite close to where I was based, so I contacted him and said, listen, we really need to have a chat. I find it just as you say, really interesting and funny. And he was nothing but welcome, and he was like, yeah, that's absolutely cool, let's see what we can do. So I managed to get to the show. He was comparing, which means you introduce, you move through all the bands, you keep it. It's a really sort of big job and it takes up a lot of your time. So I really quickly want to get to sit down with him, and I say it's a chat because it's about half an hour long, a little over half an hour long, which isn't really what I wanted to do, because obviously the guy's done a massive amount of stuff, and to cover it in half an hour just doesn't do it any justice at all. The reason it was cut so short is because he had to get on stage. I literally grabbed him for a little period of time. We went through some stuff. It was really, really interesting. And then we had to get away and do that. But Andrew's promised to come back on the show and do some stuff via Discord and Skype. So, you know, our conversation got deep and interesting really, really quickly. And I just thought it was interesting, so I want to put this out there and see what you think. I suggest you check out everything that Andrew O'Neill's doing. This is a guy who's just going everywhere doing comedy and his whole kind of brand of humour, and he's riding a bike to these venues and riding a bike out the length and breadth of this country and taking to trains on his own and just getting it done and spreading the word of metal and what he believes and all of his kind of belief system. And it's just hugely influential, sort of interesting person. So this is about a half an hour chat where we cover quite a few things, mainly how he got interested in metal and where he started kind of that day. I feel obviously there's an enormous amount of stuff that we can keep going through, but let's not mess around. Let's just get straight into it. Apologies slightly for the quality and the length, because some of these things are done in a very guerrilla sense, in a very kind of like, you know, grassroots punk rock almost, like kind of just let's get it recorded, because otherwise what's the difference having an okayish recording and only talking for half an hour or no recording at all? Well, the answer's obvious. Yeah, so we sit down for a little bit. Hope you'll enjoy it. As always, you know, leave some comments and and share if you do enjoy the stuff. And as I say again, check out Andrew O'Neill and the men that will be playing for Nothing, his band. Really interesting stuff, really funny, and just an interesting take on metal and punk and as well. So let's get on with it. This is me talking to Andrew O'Neill. I'll try and let's do some kind of an intro. I always try and form some kind of an intro, and it's very difficult to introduce the person I'm speaking to today, because he frankly does everything. ADHD, I think he said, was the driving force behind it.
Well, it's definitely a component part of the fact that I just haven't got the one thing. I mean, so I'll say stand up. Right?
Okay.
Comedy is the root, the central spine. It's my direct expression of self.
Okay.
And then music is what most people would call a hobby, but it's obviously like much
kind of
more
takes
an
it
interesting part of.
So I'm with Andrew O'Neill. Anybody who does a quick Wikipedia for him and that type of thing will know, obviously, that yes, he's a comedian, an award-winning comedian, world traveller, comedian, I would say, guitarist in a band, an author as well, very much involved with the Kickstarter thing that he's got going at the moment for the history of metal. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty big remit to kind of put up. But the reason we're sitting down, the reason we're talking is because above everything else, Andrew's a metalhead.
Fully paid up.
He's bought in, and he's part of that club. And so what I always tend to talk about is the first time, not necessarily metal, but the first time you hear music. When's that sort of enter into your life?
It would have been when my brother came back from was it the Cadets thing with Queen's Greatest Hits.
Okay, so it was kind of rock and metal first. Yeah.
I mean, well, my parents always had Radio 2 on. My parents and my nan always had Radio 2 on.
Okay.
And I think this is why I write catchy songs. Because like absolutely constantly I had 50s, 60s, 70s and then contemporary music.
Yeah, sure. But that golden period.
And so you've got like
Queen's Greatest Hits.
Incredibly good songwriting. So that is, if you imagine, that's just like that's the background. That's constantly going in, and then I remember singing along to Bohemian Rhapsody with my brother.
See, they're big bars already to kind of. That's Queen's Greatest. It's not just one album. The
Bear in mind,
greatest.
my brother's a fucking bully, so I was only allowed to sing very small parts.
Oh, you only did sections?
Very small.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a full-on. He was singing it, and then I got to do a bit.
Right.
So, like, Queen were like my first favourite band.
Yeah.
And then I had the '86 Wembley show on tape.
Yeah.
And I watched that just over and over and over and over again.
Because many believe that they're then to be the greatest shows, live shows ever. Not necessarily rock, but music itself,
they're phenomenal.
That's good stuff coming into to you then, isn't it? But it's also an extremely high bar. Because you're singing wise. If you're going to try and sing that, if you're going to try and write songs like that, they're high bars. So then. That was an album you kind of got by proxy, if you know what I mean. Listen to someone else. Do you remember going out and buying? You went, okay, I'm going to buy something.
It says a lot about who I am as a person. That my first record I ever bought with my own money was the Comic Relief record "Living Doll" with Cliff Richard and
the Young Ones. Yeah.
And I had the 7-inch version of that. That was my first record. Also, Matt Crosby, who's in Pappies. That was his first record as well. And I think
it's funny, a lot of people's first sort of nod into metal was the Young Ones. When Motorhead were on the Young Ones,
totally.
that was for me. I was like, that's an amplifier. That's Lemmy. Is that what's that?
Yeah.
So the Young Ones are quite, and then Bad News as well, and that type of thing.
Absolutely
inducted me into that.
Well, I have a Bad News patch on the shorts. I'll show you later on. my adventure shorts have a Bad News patch. So then again, it was through my brothers. And it was Hendrix was from David, who also got me to see the Queen, and I got Public Enemy from Stephen.
Okay.
And probably the first time I decided I wanted to be a metalhead was watching the Public Enemy. Anthrax,
isn't that interesting? The crossover.
Video.
Yeah.
I'm just going, and even now I'm not an Anthrax fan.
Yeah.
I've seen them a lot.
Yeah.
But I get what's great about it. Do you know
Well,
what I mean? Like,
it's energy. You know, there's two things that you can never deny. It's genius and energy. If something's genius, it transcends genres, and if it's something's done with someone who genuinely believes in what they do, that crosses over as well. And they, both of those, believed what they were doing and believed that they were breaking down a barrier. You know,
I think there's that slight binary in thrash, isn't there? There's the fun stuff and there's the dark stuff.
Yeah.
And interesting. I was always drawn to the dark stuff.
Okay.
And then through the revival, like Municipal Waste.
Yeah.
Because when I first saw Municipal Waste in a magazine, I thought it looked like cosplay. These guys with their patches,
With the
their
hats,
bandanas, and
yeah.
And I'm like, but do these guys wear this stuff all the time? I didn't think, you know.
And they live in this.
Yeah. And I was a bit dismissive. And then I saw them supporting Sick of It All, and I went, oh, this is fucking amazing.
Connected. Yeah.
And then I went to see them headline, and Toxic Holocaust was supporting, and I went, oh, I see.
When it's laid out, yeah.
But that because I think I kind of keep, I suppose, slight oil and water in kind of metal and comedy, is that I don't like bands, like I fucking hate Steel Panther.
Okay.
Like,
I'm in agreement there.
like,
yeah.
I just won't have it.
I don't mind this, that how pretentious. I don't mind the concept, but I don't like the longevity. For me, it was a short.
One album.
Yeah, it best it's an album, you know,
Yeah.
and that's it, and then should have been left. And it's like, hold on, they're doing arenas now. No, that shouldn't have got that far.
But to illustrate the dominance in my head of the narcissism of small differences, what I do find totally acceptable to the degree of absolutely loving them is the darkness.
Yeah,
I mean, the difference is the darkness have a glint in their eye because they know what they're doing silly, but it is also exactly what they most love.
Yeah.
Whereas Steel Panther are doing a parody of a genre that was already a parody of rock and roll.
It's the line straddled by, you know, by Tap, isn't it? It's that kind of, you know, just enough that the guy is completely earnest about what he's doing, but also completely parodying himself. Like it's
totally the comedy about it's the comedy, and this is like there's no. I don't stand behind this with any kind of like moral position.
Sure.
This is simply this is me retconning my own opinion.
Yeah.
But comedy about metal I don't mind as long as it comes from love. So Wayne's World I love.
Yes.
Airheads is clearly made by people who don't like metal.
The right of it. Yeah, and I think what you're saying is it revolves back to your own work and what you do. The book, which I strongly suggest everybody reads, is The History of Metal. That's a fucking big cross to die on. Where you go, I'm going to write the history of metal. You can't do it if you don't love it.
No. If you see, I was very careful. It's called a history of heavy metal.
And your history in this case,
And in the
but still, if you're going to go, I'm going to cover at least, even if it's only from my opinion, a massive subject. You can't do it unless you love it. You can't. You can't.
This is true because I considered as trying to figure out what I can do to follow it up, and what else is there that I love that much and have loved that much? There's nothing.
Okay.
Possibly a history of comedy, but that's already a bit on the nose.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move slightly back before we get to that, because it might help us get to that. So you first did listen to these albums. When was the first time an instrumentation came in? Then when did you pick up a guitar, or was it a guitar and you were like, okay, I want to make my own music?
Well, watching Brian May. Well, basically, I wanted to be Freddie Mercury. Right? Okay. And I have achieved that. So that's goal number one. I mean, I am now Freddie Mercury. But I wanted to be Freddie Mercury.
Okay.
But also I really loved Hendrix, and then I got into metal, and I got to Metallica, and then Slayer, Sepultura, Deicide, Cannibal Corpse, and I've always had a thing in my life where if I see someone doing something that I admire, I want to do it.
That's a very natural thing for people to see.
What that means now is I'll listen to music with a violin, and I'll listen to Dirty 3 and go, oh, I should play the violin.
Sure.
And I'll go, no, fucking sit and practice your guitar more.
But so you went out and bought a guitar? Did someone buy it for you?
There was a really shitty acoustic knocker.
It's always a shitty acoustic, isn't it?
Which is still there. I bought my dad a guitar this year because he's still plucking occasionally.
You're like,
you cannot tune it. And so I learnt like Wild Thing on one string, and then I went and I bought a guitar. I bought a Yamaha Pacifica 112.
I know those ones. From
Rock Bottom in Croydon. And here's an interesting thing: those guys were fucking dicks, right?
What, the
You know?
guys that sold it to
Yeah,
you?
yeah. Like guys in guitar shops are nearly always dicks.
Yeah.
And here's an interesting thing.
Because there's a salesman aspect to it.
they're just,
And what's worse is you've got to sell your soul a little bit.
Gatekeeping.
Because it's like, hey, I'm like you, we like music, we
yeah,
like guitar, but I do need to shift this fucking awful guitar on.
I find it gatekeeping, and the thing they did to me was I was reading about guitars, and they're saying like the output of a pickup is high, it's known as being hot.
Yes.
And I was like, so what are the pickups like? They're pretty hot. Oh, room temperature. Oh, don't be a dick.
Oh, it's
I've
like
used
the old
right word.
the guy go the
Woofers and tweeters. It's like
it's that thing when he goes in, he goes, "Do you want a dab on your head?" Yeah.
Totally. So, but here's an interesting thing. A few years ago, I asked on Facebook. Nearly all the women I know are obsessed with music. Nearly none of the women I know make music.
Okay, that's interesting.
Nearly all the guys I know are obsessed with music, and nearly all the guys I know either do or have made music.
Right.
And I was like, why do you think this is? I'm specifically talking to my female friends. And there are a few anecdotes back, and one of them, my friend Claire, said she really wanted to learn bass. She was a massive indie kid in the 90s. And she went into a guitar shop, and she said they were so rude to her,
It put her off the
she
whole.
left.
Isn't that
And
interesting?
never picked up one up. Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing. I took them being rude to me as like guys in guitar shops are cunts. And but Hendrix is a bloke, Brian May's a bloke,
Yeah.
Kirk Hammett's a bloke. But she went in there and just felt like the gates came crashing down, and this isn't for me.
She's been completely ostracised from a whole thing. That could have been her entire career.
way of life.
A way of life. It's been completely
Method of
removed.
expression.
That's absolutely frightening to think that probably goes on still.
It must happen all the time. That must happen to. Must presumably happen to loads of guys as well. But what I noticed was the point at which I started playing music as part of my job. Was when people in guitar shops started taking me seriously, and this absolute switch happened. Because when you're on tour and you've got a guitar on your back and a harried look on your face, you go, I need the thing for the thing that does the thing. And they're like, oh, the guy, and they're like, they suddenly move heaven and earth because the guy needs the thing to do the thing,
Yeah.
Whereas if you're going, I think I'd like, couldn't I try the red one?
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
like, oh, you can want that one, that's a rubbish guitar. And it was so funny because as soon as it looks like, not even necessarily that you know what you're doing, but that you do it for a living, or you're part of a tour. Oh, you guys on tour then? Yeah,
You have to kind of get past, like you say, gatekeeper's probably the perfect way of explaining. If you can get past that gate, these guys will move heaven and earth. If you can't, that's interesting because I always talk about on the podcast about where the next sort of musicians and artists are coming from, and if we're nobbling women, for example, or people who are the first forays into this, where are we expecting the seeds to be planted?
Yeah.
They're just not happening.
Well, that's an interesting question, particularly within metal, and I think that metal has explored the sort of outline, the parameters, that's the right word, of its territory. Yeah. So we've mapped the coastline of metal now.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And anything beyond that coastline is no longer metal, which is fine.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean it's less good, but it just means it's not really metal anymore.
Yeah.
So if that gets too much influence from dance or jazz or whatever else, then it's no longer metal and it's not part of our thing. So what seems to be happening is the next new thing in metal will be another revision of a.
Okay.
Like Ghost will probably be the biggest example of like a band who got massive.
Yeah.
With this alchemy of sort of
70s kind of thing with these. Yeah. And they kind of. I suppose the only problem and the danger with that is if you're constantly revising something, you're constantly retrograding something, if you will. That nothing new's been injected, and it almost becomes incestuous and to the point where to a fault. You know.
Oh, totally.
So you start playing, you start making your own noise, and kind of do that. When at this point, how far away are we from comedy coming in? Are we still a band, getting into a band and going to gigs?
So my first, it's also like, 95 is the first time I went to a metal show, Fear Factory at Astoria.
Sure.
Don't look for it; it's not there anymore. And then, and then a couple of years ago, I went to the 20th anniversary tour of that.
Isn't that strange?
And this year, it's 25th. Next year, 25th. Anyway, so but yeah, but I was into hardcore as well. And
Yeah.
So with
It's like demanufacturing stuff was kind of
And so me and some mates from school. I was very lucky that I had a lot of mates at school that were into metal. I wasn't that kind of lonely kid who,
Right.
There was
the oft-told story of the ostracised kid and the kind of person on the planet.
Across different years, and we were the only ones that broke that barrier.
But you gravitated to
So, but yeah, me, John, who's my oldest mate, a guy called Alex, rest in peace, died a couple of years ago, overdose, absolute wanker, and a guy called Steve started a band, and we started off playing a few, like playing Refuse Resist and playing out Sick of All song here, a Carcass song there, and trying to. And
what was that band called?
Started off.
We love the first names of bands on.
Lifeless was the first.
Lifeless, that's
the first name.
That's all right.
Alex vetoed it because it gave critics the ability to use.
Oh, I see. God, do we have to reverse engineer a band's name because you think what the critics are going to say?
And then we were called Standpoint. We're in the thanks list on a few records of Standpoint. We never did a gig. We're like, all the guys from Andrew and all the guys from Standpoint. Cheers, Knuckle Dust. And that just didn't go anywhere. And then then that band. This is so painful. This is like therapy now. It's so painful to revisit.
You can recline and we can talk it through.
That band split up and then immediately reformed without me.
Oh shit!
Wow! Isn't that something?
That's something you have to take.
They literally did that, and they found another singer, and then they started doing a thing, and then they realised that guy was a dick and that guy was a dick, and then John Lynn came crawling back and went, do you want to do a band with us? We'll find a new drummer and we'll make music like Kiss It Goodbye. So Kiss It Goodbye at the time was my favourite hardcore band.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am absolutely in. So that was my first problem. That's what we called Sunstarved Day.
Sunstarved Day.
Sunstarved Day.
That's okay. And then
from Greek poetry.
So just for the benefit of the listeners, he's now shown you across his coccyx.
I've got a massive tattoo of my band that never went anywhere on my back.
But that's good. Yeah.
We did a few gigs. We supported Botch, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And everyone apart from me in that band had significant mental health problems, so it was a rotate. People kept leaving and coming back, particularly our frontman Stuart kept leaving and coming back, so we'd teach a new person the song and then Stuart would come back and then we didn't record anything. And then the other guys in that band formed this other band that was like I forgot my name of the band, that massive influence, like a kind of all bass sort of sludge doom kind of thing, called Pale Horse, and after their first gig they got signed.
I've heard that story before,
and I just went, well that's our band, fuck that. And it was, but then around then was when I exactly around that point when I did my first stand-up show. I did my first stand-up gig.
But what was so I understand the need to get into a band and make noise. You've heard the albums. Where was the need to perform comedy then?
Well, because parallel to all this obsession with heavy metal was a stronger obsession with comedy.
Right.
So from watching Blackadder, we were talking about earlier, from watching Blackadder in 1989 and just falling in love with it, becoming obsessed with it, and I just loved like all comedy. I had completely Catholic taste, whether it was Monty Python or like Bobby Davro or Freddie Starr.
But certainly when you were listening, you were probably at the boom of listening, just seeing that comedy, probably at the boom of what we called alternative comedy, and that kind of the real sort of fringe stuff as well that was exploding up. That would have been massively influential.
And I just loved all of it. The weirder the better.
Sure.
And I wanted to be a sketch comic. That was the thing I wanted. I wanted to be John Cleese, basically.
Okay.
Like Douglas Adams also wanted to be John Cleese, and he says, but unfortunately that role was taken, so he had to be himself. So, and then I saw Eddie Izzard, and like, he's a transvestite, and I'm a transvestite, and that unlocked part of my identity.
Lots of lights are going off at this point.
That's what I am. That's amazing. And then also he does sketch comedy as stand-up.
Sure.
And I want to do that. So then I spent years going, I want to do stand-up. and spent years desperately trying to be the funniest person in the room.
Is
Succeeding, but you know.
Is it important, do you think? I think probably the answer is yes. I'm probably asking a rhetorical question here, but it is important that those people that are seen and performers do challenge what's acceptable and do challenge what the norms are, because someone like yourself will allows them to see that and goes, okay, that's possible, and you must be shown that.
Here's the thing, right? Nearly all stand-up, like nearly all of any particular strain of culture is shit, right? That's just true.
Okay.
Nearly all stand-up is shit. Often enjoyable, but and nearly all stand-up reflects an unaltered. It reflects the audience's worldview without challenging it, right? What I think stand-up should be is an outsider perspective. I think stand-up should be outsiders.
Okay.
And I think it's up to us to, while the audience is at work, working proper jobs, it's up to us to think about the world in such a way that when they come and see us, we present the world in a way that they haven't thought about. Well, they haven't had necessarily the time to think about.
Sure.
They're doing jobs, childcare, whatever. Whereas I'm sitting on my arse, reading books and trying to, as much as I can, and trying to take in as much information and trying to, I obviously waste a shit of the time. But that's my high ideal.
Yeah, to get to it. Yeah.
So it is. I think it is up to the stand-up to challenge the audience's worldview.
I read an interesting story about a Native American tribe, and one of the people within that tribe, their sole job is to mock and make fun of everything. So if there's a puddle,
Stuart Lee did a documentary on this.
If there's a puddle, it's a large lake. Everything's reduced to its like comedic elements. Nothing is taken. And he's like the most important guy.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, we can't. If you get all your tribe guys together, we've got a doctor, we've got a whatever. We got that comedy guy. Shit, it's not a proper tribe. He was that important because he fundamentally made you question, and in some cases not take seriously life, and his role was incredibly important to the tribe itself, And I think you're exactly right. Comedy should be there to explore freeform, if you will, the edges of society and the edges of options, political and everything.
The darkest experience.
Yes.
So I just did another podcast with my friend Amanda, who's a musician, and she's just done the darkest album of her career, and she does a song about abortion, and I've got a bit about me and my wife had an abortion, and we were talking about, what's the point of art, and there's a horrible notion when, not within comedy but about comedy, that there are subjects you shouldn't be funny about,
subjects
right?
To be, yeah.
And I think that's total bullshit, and I think that what we should be doing is taking the very darkest things, holding them up to the light, and basically going, it's alright. We'll be alright. We'll get through it. That's what comedy's for. Well, comedy's specifically for that.
You go back to Bruce and Carlin, when Carlin's like, these words we can't even say. These words we can't even say. And we've moved slightly forward to a point where we can say some of these words now, and some of them are de rigueur now. They're not even taboo. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that there's two tracks running alongside here with the metal and comedy, because metal allows you to deal with incredibly tough and difficult topics in a very kind of, well, here it is, and
the first word on the greatest album of all time is the word Auschwitz.
Yes. So
doing a song about what? And that thing that Slayer do of doing songs from the point of view of the perpetrator. Whether it's on Angel of Death or whether it's on Jihad. That's so fucking cool.
You're putting stuff like completely out there, and like you say, I'm reversing roles as well and saying, well, look at this. These things where, you think like Slayer's first album, I think most of it was in pretty much standard tuning. It wasn't this detuned craziness. No. It was just Slayer being heavy in a musical sense, because the subject matter that they were covering was heavy, and these things were put out there.
Judas Priest.
yeah.
Show them
that's about you, baby. That's about me. It's not a particularly heavy song, but it's So I think there is two tracks running here with comedy and metal, and it seems to me they are bedfellows.
And my approach to comedy is wholly influenced by my subcultural background.
Sure.
Like, I never expected to make a living off comedy. Turns out overhead's much lower.
Sure.
When you're on your own, you don't need a van.
Yeah.
But also, and it's amazing how this isn't the standard approach. I make the sort of comedy I would want to be in the audience watching.
Yeah, but you could substitute comedy for music with that statement as
that's
well.
right,
You know? And that's how isn't that how all art should be approached?
Yeah.
You know, I want to paint a picture that's something that I would like to see.
Yeah.
I would like to make a movie, so that should be it. If you're in any way doing it for another reason, it's probably going to dilute the actual end result. You know?
Nearly all of the best.
I enjoyed the occult comedian, the things you did.
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
that. I thought it was interesting. I thought that was a really nice balance between the two things that we talked about. So when did the occultism and that type of thing? When did that become sort of into your family?
That was Alan Moore that did that to me.
Okay.
I also it's interesting how outdated a cult comedian is because the views in that show have moved on.
Yeah.
Really, like loads.
You could see you're building something.
Well, that was me. That was that was about my very first dabblings in ritual magic. But yeah, I had a materialist, like atheist Dawkins reading worldview, which had been a move on from my Christian upbringing, my very loose Christian upbringing. And then I got to Alan Moore and I read an interview with him where he said, talking about magic, the only place these things need to exist is in your own mind. You just have no idea how vast that territory is. And I was like, oh fuck! I can't deny that. That's really annoying.
That's too
And also,
yeah.
he's the greatest writer currently living. So that's. And then the more I read about it from him, the more I was like, this is something I want to try. And then I tried it.
So are we into the point now where you're reading Crowley and stuff like that?
I read Crowley early on because the writing is ludicrously dense.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
a cunt.
Well, I read experienced the Book of the Law, where you go through it, try and pull things from it. Yeah. And this is at the time when I was a huge horror fan that I am. And when I get to the end, there's a reading list at the end of it, and there's all these crazy books of Sanskrit and stuff that you're never going to see. But in it is the Necronomicon, and I'm 2 days away from watching The Evil Dead, and I'm like, what?
So this is the publisher's list, isn't it?
Yeah,
this isn't Crowley's list.
This isn't his list, but it's at the back of the reading list is the Necronomicon, and I'm like, this is just, I am in a room here I do not want it. I'm so out my depth, and it kind of put me off for years before I went back and then read some, because he used to write like, when he was kind of short for money, he wrote like short stories and stuff like that, and they're fabulous. They're fabulous. But for me, it was just incredibly dense. So how did you make your way into that then?
Well, I started reading. But the thing is, my magical practice is about practice. Most people who are into magic, like most dudes are into magic. They're like, well, have you read this? Have you read that? Have you read this?
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, but what have you done?
Yeah.
And most of them don't do stuff. So I did a load of exercise, and I kept doing exercise, I kept doing practical stuff, and it kept fucking working to a degree that was totally piss taking. And that's kind of been it since then. And I've read quite a lot now, but it's like how many practical books about sex have you read?
Yeah.
You don't. That's not how you get good at sex.
Yeah.
I'll read another one. Just doing my homework there. Before
okay. Let's have a go at the
You know. So like. Yeah. My practice has all grown kind of organically. It's not particularly academic. I'm drawn to certain things. It's very intuitive, and then I do reading to kind of back it up. But it's very intuitive. It's very sort of.
You think you have a knowledge base that you could, because we were talking about, what's the next thing after the things you're doing now? Do you think you have a knowledge base that you could write that? Not necessarily complete, but more for an introduction.
I do want to do a book about magic. I've got a plan to write a book about the magic.
If you're saying that some people, a lot of people sort of think is that there's too much distance between learning and practicality.
The thing is, I have no interest whatsoever in teaching people how to do magic.
Right.
Absolutely no interest whatsoever. It's pretty personal to me. What I am interested in is investigating the fact that there are more people practicing ritual magic now than ever before, right? And people properly into it. And I'm sort of thinking, well, where's the Crowley in this? Where's the who's the Robert Anton Wilson of now?
Sure.
Where are the Blavatsky of now? Where are these people like what's happening that's new? What's like, and because every book about magic pretty much is in the past people did this.
Yeah, with 20, 30, 40 years ago. Yeah.
Science doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Science released a paper
all
yesterday. Yeah.
So what I am interested in is sniffing the occult zeitgeist. But what I want to do, one of the things I want to do in it, is break down my own kind of like, to use Robert Anton Wilson term, reality tunnel.
Okay.
And interview people that I completely disagree with, and get, because what I could do is just like confirmation bias my way through it.
Yeah, just
find
only
all
talk
the
to
dudes
people
that I
who
chime
agree with
with,
you.
and I'm like, well, I think I've got to measure it. I think this guy's got to.
Yeah.
What I want to do is, you know, all of the kind of the more new age stuff, the more like sparkly spellbook teenage stuff, the more like dude bro Satanist stuff. Interview these people, find out what they're doing, experiment with them, go like, give me an exercise to do, and that sort of thing. So that's, but I don't consider, I'm a total beginner when it comes to magic. I'm an absolute picking out twinkle twinkle little star with one finger.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm a dabbler, but it's part of my life now, and I love, like, I use magic to write my shows.
Okay.
And there's the Black Magic Fun Hour demanded that I wrote about magic.
Yeah, it kind of necessitated itself there. Yeah.
But the last two shows I've written, the magic isn't. So this, like last year in Edinburgh, I'm disappointed there's not much magic in the show this year. Like, you have not been paying attention.
That's all.
Because there was like.
Yeah.
Wait, because the whole show, that show was so much more of a working.
Yeah.
And everything in that show came out of magic.
Is that what's happening when you do a stand-up? Is it as much as you're working out a social commentary, you're also working out your own sort of position on magic and your own sort of views?
Not my position on magic. No,
Is that the wrong way to put it?
I use magic to tell me what to write about.
Okay.
And there is definitely that kind of true will finding thing, absolutely.
Right.
But I'm working kabbalistically, so.
Okay, so that was Andrew O'Neill, a brief chat, as I say, where we kind of like, there's some good stuff there. And obviously that leaves the door open for us to have many, many more chats there. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, the usual, post, repost, that type of thing, listening and on various media devices that you do. I've got a lot of very nice feedback about the last show. Talking to the people at the Outpost, which was really fun for me to do. This one was really nice as well. It's got some really good ones kind of coming up as well. As always, comment, share, subscribe, all that other good stuff to kind of help get the word of the show out. If you think that this is something that someone would enjoy listening to, suggest it to them. It's as simple as that. That's how the kind of word gets spread around and people find the show and enjoy it a little bit more. Don't forget, obviously, the Metal to the Masses Heat 1, Friday the 12th of April at 7 p.m. Guest headliners all consumed. Atom Amir, Soulless Nil, Soul Desire, and a band to be confirmed as well, all playing, vying for the chance to go forward to go on to Bloodstock. So please check that out. I'll be the compere for the evening. And thanks for listening to the show. I'll see you again now.